It is day 12. We are officially halfway through and we finished the first Lush Advent today. So, knit or dye eyes, let's have a peek. We've got tea. Lemon and lime tea today. Oh, that's cool. It really matches, again, always matches the picture. I like that. So this is the black-chinned honeyeater. The black-chinned honeyeater is a small bird native to the southern parts of Australia. They are social birds seen in groups of around 12, with birds cooperating to care for the young. Females have been found to feed the chicks of other females nesting close by. Black-chinned honeyeaters feed on nectar and insects, mainly foraging in the upper canopy of eucalypt forests. The black-chinned honeyeater is listed as vulnerable in some states due to disturbances made by humans, including introduced predators and habitat destruction. As always. This is really beautiful. I like that yellow. I think it's going to be really fun as it comes through. Okay. Olivia and Oliver, day 12. Oh my god. So much rustling. Ooh. That's a really nice colour. What's the picture? It's beautiful. So this is Malaga. Malaga is one of the world's oldest cities. When it was founded by Phoenicians in 770 BCE, it was known as Malacca. The artist Pablo Picasso was born in Malaga, 200 metres away from where the Museo Picasso Malaga is now located. Casa Natal, Picasso's birthplace, is open to the public and gives a view of the artist's early years in Malaga. So I'm thinking Italy? I honestly have no idea where some of these places are, and that's what's so much fun. I get to find them out. This is beautiful. Okay. All right, Lush. Let's go. Big box, little box. Big box. I put my hand this way, so we know what this one is. This is that Christmas pudding one that I got confused and thought was something else, I think. Unless I'm confused about this one too. Let's try and find it. Yes, the golden pudding. It was right. So this is citric acid, cornstarch, sweet wild orange oil, wine lees oil, lime oil, water, corn protein. So it smells very citrusy, very fruity. Okay, where are you going to go, little buff bump? You can go behind this one. There you go. I like my little collection. They're starting to grow. Now, do I have, let's just have a look. I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I'm trying to see. Mm-hmm. 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16. And it's, okay. What I might start doing is opening 2 a day after the Lush 12 days one is finished, which is tomorrow. So that way I'll have all of them opened in time for actual Christmas. And then I can give them away as gifts, which is kind of like the point of me getting them. Okay. Thank you for being here as I think things through. All right, last day of Lush Advent, day 12. Last day. Let's have a look. Oh, this is so cute. It's a little rainbow man. All right, what are we today? Snowman dreaming. So citric acid, cream of tartar, cedarwood oil, lavender oil, cornstarch. It's not quite Twilight, which is my favourite Lush product, but it's pretty good. So that'll be really lovely. All right, so that's done for today. Well, done for forever, actually. What I was planning on doing is doing like a little reels thing of each day, like popping open. So I will hopefully do that tonight, and then it'll be up and ready to go. That'll be really fun. I'm excited. I've got a black dress and I can't wipe my hands anywhere. It's really neat. Okay, so yesterday, we went to the market and I did some knitting. So first up, because it's in my hand, this is the finished day 12. I took with me day 13, or day 7, but still, to open, and I just didn't get to it because I spent most of the time walking around staring at things than knitting, but that's okay. I think that's the point. This is the open star stitch. I really love it. It's so intuitive and so easy to do. I do need to double check how I've done it for my instructions though, because almost all of it is right until you get down to the very last like 3 stitches, and then it kind of like wavers a little bit. So I've got to do that, but that's okay. So this is that green, the malachite, so it's starting to move in. I still don't know what day 7 is, so it's going to be a surprise to me. I'll probably open after this record. And I can't wait to see what colour it's going to add on. So this is the Woolen Works Advent, the Wattle Works scarf. And I think I will do the arrow, making that more pronounced. I think that'll be really fun. Okay, I basically did 2 rows of this one. But you can see it just added on to the end there. I feel so much nicer about this side-to-side cardigan now that I've ripped back, which is always the point. It's just writing it is a little bit, because I write fairly intuitively to my knitting, and then I have to come back and explain my brain, and that's hard. So I'm trying to be more clear, but we're getting there. So what I've done is I've put, again, I measured roughly where my underarm would be, or like underarm to, I don't know, like under bra section, I guess. And I put a little stitch marker there. So what I'm trying to do is do short rows. Come on. Do short rows, continuing the peplum shaping, but also doing underarm. So I kind of do 2 rows normal, short row here, and then on the way up, short row here, and then down 1 row normal, short row, normal. So it's a bit of thinking at the moment. I can't just instinctively do it, but it's working out nicely, and I'm so much happier with it. All right, the things that I got from the market yesterday. I didn't actually get a chance to show you, but let's show you now. So I got, first up, this was a store run by a daughter and her mother-in-law. They were South African. They were lovely. Their names, all of these ones I recorded as well, so you would see them in yesterday's video. This one is Bella Lace Creations, and I love it because they gave it to me in a little book bag, literally like a hand-sewn pages from a book bag, which I think is really creative and I really like it. So I found this one here first, and it says, "I turn coffee into education," which I laughed and laughed and laughed and laughed, and then when I knit it, it's mine. Because I just feel like that is pretty much exactly me. I got, these are the first ones that I saw. They're like decoupaged onto wood, and then, yeah, cut out, and I really like them. I think they will go with my hair. I think they're beautiful. I also just love like natural wood kind of things. I found these ones. Again, that kind of natural wood looking. I think that'll be really lovely. I love geometric designs and all that kind of florally mandala designs. And then it was, you could either buy them for, I think it's $15 each or 3 for $40. And I was like, well, obviously 3 for $40 makes sense. So I was trying to figure out which ones I really, really, really liked to take home with me because they were all beautiful, but I could only take 3, obviously. And then I found these ones. So again, I really love them, and I feel like they accentuate my face shape as well. So I don't know, something about them I really like. So that was one of the stores. Where else did I go? Is there anything else in the main section? Nope. Okay. I got these ones. I can show you these ones. So all the way down the bottom, I didn't find anything. And then as soon as I got to the top, I was like, okay, shopping time. So these are from Dolly Designs. I love these big, I love the way that they're on the hoop. So they're like put through, they're resin, and I just, again, you can see in the video from yesterday, but just the way that she displayed all of her stuff, I just thought was so beautiful. And I feel like they really stand out with the pink hair. So, and I like big statement pieces. So I feel like these would be beautiful. And then, to put you back on, talking about statement pieces. I found these ones. I'm not big on orange, but lately I have been. So there we go. Giant Monstera leaf ones. I really like them. I've always felt like my ears are too small, like my earlobes are too small for really big pieces, but I like the dangly big pieces. So I feel like this is a good one. So these are from Dolly Designs, and I really, really, really love that. One thing I love about markets is just finding new people to essentially Instagram stalk and then shop. So I found that really, really, really fun. Okay, where am I? I think that's, did I buy anything else? Got a lot of keys, a lot of cards from yesterday. I have to say as well, it was so beautiful because I walked around the markets, and obviously I'm doing Vlogmas, that's why you're watching me. But it was like, you know, it's, I don't know, I kind of, like, I wanted to show you what they were doing, but I didn't want to film people that didn't consent. Like, obviously that's rude, and I didn't get anyone's face as much as I tried. But it was so much fun. Like, I walked around and I was like, hey, I'm doing Vlogmas. It's where you record every day from 3 December until Christmas. I would love to record your store. I love your setup. It's absolutely beautiful. Do you have a card I can take as well to make sure that I say the right name? And all of them were like, yes, absolutely, go for it. And then I did it for the donut store, and they were like, can we follow you back on YouTube? I was like, yes. So that was really fun. I just loved the vibe, like the supporting vibe that everyone got. And, you know, I mentioned to a couple of people that I knit, and I was like, you know, I would be upset if someone, say, filmed me knitting and promoted it without promoting me, like, you know, and the girls were laughing and they're like, no, I totally get that. And so I was just like, yeah, like, I don't know, just the chats and the vibes were really, really, really good. Okay, so these are the earrings that made me start purchasing. They are by Vivid Ginger. And oh, I love it. She's got a care card. I love that. Love that. So I saw these and I was like, oh, yes, I need those. They're coming home with me. They also, I had a budget on how much I could spend because that's an intelligent thing to do. I then overblew my budget, but that's okay. But she had these beautiful Golden Girls earrings that were like little pearls with little tiny diamonds in them, or like diamantes, and then a matching necklace. And I've never seen the Golden Girls. I'm not that age demographic. But they were absolutely stunning. And I was just like, wow, I really, really, really want them. So these are these beautiful gold crystal earrings. I love fine art. If I had the talent to make this sort of thing, I so would. I can't, but oh, I wish I could. So these are crystal hoop drops, and they are handmade, hand wound. So if you can see, there's like, if I move out of the way, can you see it better? Like, yeah, handmade, hand wound. I just love it. And then, so this is what reminded me to show you, and also after the Picasso theme from Olivia and Oliver Fibers, I feel like it's only fitting that I wear these new earrings today. So they are the Picasso hoops, and I feel like they are very fitting. I've also just realized she completely undercharged me. That's awkward. I'll have to reach out and be like, hey, do you want the extra $10? Because that was, oh no. 45 and 55 is 100. There we go. I can count. Look at me doing math. All right, are you gonna come into my ear? I always find putting new earrings in really hard because you're like unfamiliar with the shape and unfamiliar with the way that they work. And you always want to make sure they're right. Okay, there we go. I love them. Oh, I think they're so cute. Yay! Okay, the last thing that I did, so I did my potato printing. This one is definitely, I then re-rolled it back because obviously that's easier. I figured out a lot of what to do and what not to do with potato printing, but I really like it. So this is just like inconsistent stripes of that. I really love them, and I like the handmade creative look of them. Got one more thing to show you that I did yesterday. So I decided to make clay pieces, and what my plan is to wrap them in the handmade wrapping and then have one of these little clay pieces that goes with each of them as well. So I put a hole in them so I can put some string or ribbon, and I've got 5 little Christmas trees. Well, so far I've got 5 hearts. I have little beads of the gold and the white kind of mixed in together. I have 3 candy canes, which is the gold and the white twisted around each other, which I thought was really fun. And I've got a smudge. It's a rainbow, but it looks like a smudge, so I'm going to call it a smudge. I know who I wanted to give this to, but it's too smudgy. I might play again with it today. I'm also going to get some sandpaper and try and sand down the edges and just make it a little bit nicer. So Bunnings is on the way home. And yeah, so I'm going to try and remake this nicer, I think, because the person who I want to give it to is lovely, and I feel like it's unfair to give them a smudge when I want to give them something nice. So that is that. Yeah, that's that. That's what I've done. So I'm off to church now. I'm on the welcome team, so kind of fits me well. I'm going to go say hello to people, and then what else am I going to do today? I've got to go return some things from Spotlight, like the clay that I'm not going to use because I've decided to just do white and gold. So return a few things from Spotlight. I wish I could return the bead makey thingy, but I opened it, but it sucks. So note to self, don't get that. And then, yeah, it's going to chill out today, do some more knitting, and relax. So that is my plan. Okay, I will see you soon. Okay, so full disclosure, I actually recorded all of this yesterday, but no idea where it's gone. So let's do it again. I am knitting on my Wattle Works double wide advent scarf with the 12-day of Advent minis by Wool and Works, and I'm going to talk books with you. So let's get started. I thought I would start with my to-read list, the books that I'm going to be reading and that I haven't yet formed an opinion of. Then I'll go through the books that I'm getting rid of, and maybe a quick about why I'm getting rid of them. So that will be relatively quick-ish. And then I will get deeper into my favourite series and why books are my favourite and fanfics about authors and all that kind of stuff. So, yeah, I will put this up on... It's currently the 13th of December, but I'll put it up on Sundays as the 12th because it's going to be a long one, and I feel like Sunday is a more appropriate day for a really long chat than a Monday is. I don't know, works my brain. So, the first few books, you've already seen this one. This is the Christopher Paolini, To Sleep in a Sea of Stars. He wrote the Aragon series, which I was completely in love with as a little kid. Me and my sister, we read them several times. And my sister actually bought me that book. To be perfectly honest, it's a slog to get through. So it's not that it's hard to read per se, but it doesn't stay in my brain very easily. And it's almost like I've got to push myself to pick it up. Once I'm reading it, I'm generally fine, but I've got to push myself to pick it up every single time. So that just doesn't feel like the mark of a great book to me. I'm going to keep it for a little bit more and see if I can read it. If I don't, honestly, I'm not going to feel too sad about passing it on because I don't love it. I've got Aurora Burning, which is the sequel to Aurora Rising. So I read this book. I bought it on the way to Broome to see my little sister because I needed something on the plane. And I read it and I was like, wow, I really like this. This is a really good book. It took me a while to get into, but once I was into it, I read it within half a day, I think. It is by two authors, Amy Kaufman and Jay Kristoff. Jay Kristoff is a prolific young adult writer, and I've got some other books of his that I want to read that I'll show you in a second. And yeah, so this is a book about a boy called Tyler who is set in space in the year 2380, and it's by a guy called Tyler, and he basically is paired up or like grouped together with this like group of people that just kind of suck, all for their own different reasons, and they've all got tension with each other. And then they end up finding this girl, Aurora, from who's in this like cryo sleep, and she's got an alien infestation, and it's all about how they kind of deal with it. And then the second book I haven't read yet, which is why it's on my to-read list, but I kind of want to read the first book again so I can remember what happens with the second book, just to keep it fresh in my mind. So I'm actually going to keep them together. I can't believe that two people wrote this. I just can't believe it. It's seamless. It's a really good book. And it's not... I tend to read a lot of female-heavy protagonists. It's not too female-heavy, but it's also not, like, overly male-heavy, which is something that I personally tend to steer away from, just 'cause it's not my thing. But yeah, I would definitely recommend it to pretty much everyone. The next Jay Kristoff books is the Nevernight series. So you've got Nevernight, God's Grave, and Dark Dawn. They're in this order because that's I put the first on the left and then I can pick them up. This is a book or a series that's been recommended to me several times. I've honestly had the series for a while, and I need to just kind of get on to reading them. I haven't yet, but I kind of went on a big shopping spree for books maybe 6 months ago, and I pretty much filled up an entire cube where all of these books fit into. So I definitely filled out my space of books, and I've been kind of slowly going through them, which is why I have so many that I was like, oh, I bought a while ago, or I've been recommended a while ago that I haven't read yet because I've just had so many other books. I've got these two here by Scott Westerfield. So this is Imposters and Shadow City. I love Scott Westerfield. I think he's incredible. I love his dystopian themes and settings and the way that he really looks at the world around us. He wrote The Uglies. So The Uglies is The Uglies, Pretties, Specials, and Extras. I read them when I was probably 16-ish, and I just love them. They have a lot of commentary. I mean, most dystopian novels do, but they had a lot of commentary on the world around us, and I just found it really interesting, his perspective, his point of view, and the way that he came across, especially around conforming, trying to change yourself to look like someone else. The coming of age kind of idea. I found it really interesting. So I'm interested to read what these ones are about. It's a similar kind of vibe where the back is this one here. Frey is the body double for her twin sister Raphia, the precious first daughter of Shreve, and her existence is a closely guarded secret. So when Raffi was schooled to be the perfect heir, Frey was trained to be the ultimate weapon. Her purpose? To protect her sister. So it's this really interesting, again, dystopian kind of concept of, I guess, like identity and finding yourself and figuring out who you are, which always rings really true for me. The next few books of fiction, I've got Ember in the Ashes by Sabah Tahir. One thing I really want to do is read a lot more people of colour, or especially women of colour, and I've started collecting a few of their books in here. I've also got my book journal here, which after I've talked about this I might do, so that might be a day 13 thing that I do, and yeah, I really want to go through and actually write it up so that way I can start reading these and then putting them in here. So An Ember in the Ashes it feels similar to the Nevernight series and to the Holy Sister series that I'm going to talk about by Mark Lawrence, where it's kind of a girl in like assassin school and she has to, save the world, blah, 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 blah. It looks really interesting. I'm interested in reading it. We'll see what happens. I just haven't yet. There's been other books I've gotten to first. Serpent and Dove and then Blood and Honey is a series that has been recommended to me, that a really good friend of mine has recommended, that a lot of my students have recommended, and that has a recommendation on the top from Sarah J. Maas, who is one of my absolute favourite authors. So it seems like a pretty good series that I definitely want to read. Again, haven't yet had the chance. It is about a witch and a witch hunter put together in love or in marriage. And I don't really know much about it, to be honest, so I can't really even tell you what it's about, but maybe you can tell me. Laurel K Hamilton, I will talk about at the end. This is her new novel, looking at her new series, which is the Zaniel Havelock series. I'm interested because it's her first main series featuring a man. She's got two other series featuring women. It's a paranormal thing. I haven't read it yet, so I can't say much. I will talk about her probably at the end because there is a content warning there, so I will definitely leave her till the very end to talk about. So if you're interested in paranormal and sexual stuff, that's at the end, but until then I won't talk about it. Let's keep with the fiction theme for now. Try and put these books that don't fall on me. I had a lot fall on me yesterday. Okay, Lynette Noni is an Australian author. Oh my god, I love her. I actually adore her writing. She makes me laugh so much. This is her more adult-y or senior fiction novel, like senior young adult fiction, new adult fiction, maybe you call it. So this is the second novel in what I think is now a trilogy. I don't know if she intended it to be a trilogy when she first started writing it, but now it is. This is The Gilded Cage. I really want to read The Prison Healer, which is the one just before it, again, because it was so good. And the twist at the end, oh my goodness. You wouldn't have expected it the whole time. I mean, there was a twist that was really obvious, but then there was an actual twist, and I was like, oh, there we go. And yeah, it was just beautiful writing. I really like Lynette Noni's work, and I will talk to you about her in one of my favorites towards the end. So yes, I've lent it out to a friend who had back surgery, and she was reading it. So I'm waiting on her. I mean, no rush. But I would like to read it before I read that one again, just to keep it fresh in my mind. I've got A Crown of Coral and Pearl by Mara Rutherford. This one has been recommended, but to be honest, every time I'm like, oh, I've got a new book to read, I keep reaching past this one. And that strikes me as problematic, because normally I choose to read all the books that I've got. It reminds me a little bit of like A Little Mermaid. I'm hoping it doesn't go with the Red Crown series, which I hated. Victoria Aveyard is not my favourite author at all. It was just boring and long and dry and continued forever. And it had a really... But basically, the main twist of it was that the girl fell for the younger, charming, charismatic brother prince, and the actual one that she was married to or betrothed to was really serious and really dark, and she really moody, and she didn't like him, and it turns out he was actually the good guy all along, and the charming prince is the bad guy. It sounds like it might have a similar thing going on in here, and I just hope not, because I feel like that trope is done and dead. So I'm gonna get really annoyed if it is, but we'll see when I read it, when I get around to reading it. I've got The Wrath and the Dawn is the first one that I read by Renee Ardier. I think... I don't know. I have a feeling Renee Ardier is Middle Eastern, or at least has spent time in the Middle East. It's very 1001 Nights, Arabian Tales is kind of the starting point, and then it branches off from there quite dramatically. I bought the second one, The Rose and the Dagger, which I really want to read. Again, I want to read the first before I read the second again. But I'm looking forward to it because I really did enjoy this book. It's probably a 3.5 out of 5 stars, to be perfectly honest. It's not my favorite, but I did really enjoy it. So I'm looking forward to reading this one. And the last fiction book that I haven't yet read out of my list is 13. The serial killer isn't on trial. He's on the jury. I do love a good crime novel. I find John Grisham a little bit same. Like once you've read one, you kind of read them all. But something short that's going to hopefully keep my attention, I do like. I also really enjoy Lee Child, who has recommended this on the front. I think that was actually why I got this one, because it had a Lee Child recommendation, and I was like, oh, I like Lee Child. I actually don't have any Lee Child books. My stepmom does at her house, and I tend to read a lot of hers. So that's how I get a couple of my other recommendations. Non-fiction. So I've got The Complete Guide to Latvian, or Complete Latvian. I'm planning on going to Latvia in 2023. And as you know, because it's like a massive hallmark of, I guess, like my brand identity, I guess, I'm really keen on learning more about my Latvian heritage, my culture, and finding out who I am. And so I feel like learning the language is definitely a part of the way to go. So I would love to be able to do it. On the track of learning about Latvian, this is my notebook that I've written notes in. This is the big book that I took down south with me, A History of Latvia. And it's really interesting. I really love it. It is dry and dense, man. It's so dense. And it just like, the way it's written, I don't necessarily love. I feel like it could have been written a lot better. It kind of starts, I've ranted about this before, it kind of starts with, the geography from whenever until 1914. Then it goes back and it goes the economics from whenever to 1914. Then it goes back and it's like the imports from whenever to 1914. Then the exports. And I'm just like, they all relate. They're all the same thing. And so it just frustrates me very quickly because I'm like, this, to my brain doesn't work that way in that segmented part. But I mean, it's how it's written. It's not like I'm going to rewrite it and change it. And it is interesting, but it just, it kind of frustrates me when I'm like, oh, cool. So we're in 1914 now. And then it's like back in 1800. I'm like, make more sense. And then you've got this one here, which is called The Case for Latvia, Disinformation Campaigns Against a Small Nation. It's by a Finnish man, which I'm really interested to read because it's not from a Latvian perspective. Therefore, I feel like it'll be more unbiased. If it was from a Russian, German, or Latvian, I'll be more likely to think it's biased. Whereas if it's Finnish, slightly more out of the way. And so I'm interested to read it, again, taking notes in my little world notebook. But I just kind of, they're dry. They're really hard to read. And I definitely prefer fiction books to non-fiction, so I'm more likely to reach for these over these. The other kind of non-fiction book that I love, oh, hang on, this one here, before that. This is called Dark Emu by Bruce Pascara. It's about Australian Indigenous people before settlement, or before invasion, whichever one you would prefer to call it. I kind of call it both, quite actively, as you can probably tell. And so I'm really interested in reading that book and talking and learning about how Aboriginal people lived before white people took over. The book itself is a little bit problematic. Bruce Pascoe has come under fire for some of the things he said, including the fact that he says he is Indigenous, although it has not been claimed by any Indigenous group. So that kind of strikes a bit of a nervous chord for me. So I haven't yet read the book. From what I've read about the book, there's been a lot of positive recommendations and positive feedback about it. People have said, yes, what he's saying is true about the actual Indigenous way of living, but then other people have said, well, he's not correct. So I'm going to read it with a pinch of salt, and then anything he says about him or his ancestral history, I'm going to, bucket of salt for that one. But the actual content of Indigenous Australians, I would love to read, and hopefully that'll be true. My little sister actually has that book, and she's the one who lives up in Broome. And so I'm thinking maybe 2022, her and I might do a book reading challenge where we read maybe a chapter a month and then talk it through. I think that'll be really good for both of us. So, and like, we don't talk all the time, so I think having something structured like that means that we're more likely to have those conversations, which, because she's living so far away, doesn't happen as organically, and I would like it to. So, hopefully. Okay, so the other kind of book that I like, other than that sort of thing, is business books. I love business podcasts. I listen to a billion. So I've got a few here. I've got Will It Fly and Superfans by Pat Flynn. I listen to his SPI podcast and Ask Pat 2.0. And so I listen to them daily. And I've been looking forward to reading his books for a really long time. Alec and I are both rather maybe not business-minded. He's very business-minded. I'm a lot more creative-minded, I would say. So I like being able to know that things that I stick my foot into could actually become something, maybe. And I just like knowing how things tick. So reading about business and listening about business really intrigues me. And then this one here is The Common Path to Uncommon Success by John Lee Dumas, who does Entrepreneurs on Fire. So try to find, here's an example. What I tend to do is I read it with a highlighter and then write little notes around as I'm reading it. I haven't gotten very far into reading these three because I've only recently got them, and I haven't been spending a lot of time reading lately. I really need to. But yeah, these are the books that I have to read. And now let me show you the books that I'm going to be getting rid of. And then I will show you my favorite books. I'll start with my creative knitting non-fiction ones first to tie with the non-fiction, and then I'll go back into the fiction. So I've got this one here, which is the Cross Stitch Garden. This is a really beautiful book. I love all things embroidery. I just don't have the fine skills to be able to do it, and I wish I did. So I bought this one thinking that I did, then I realized I didn't, and it's been sitting here for a while. So I'd love to pass it on to someone who will appreciate it. I don't really want to just send it to it's got like samplers and ideas that you can do and little projects. I don't just want to pass this on to like a Goodwill book, like a op shop, a charity shop. I feel like it's too beautiful, and I would actually like to give it to someone instead. So if anyone's interested, let me know. I'm happy to send it your way. The same goes for the next few books as well. So I've got Slow Knitting by Hannah Tierson. And this one talks about the process from sheep to skein to stitch. Yeah, a journey from the sheep to skein to stitch. It has been lent on a little bit, so there's some marks. And it's got beautiful projects inside, and it's just like a beautiful coffee table style book. It's really stunning. Again, I don't just want to give it away to a charity shop. I'd rather give it to someone, so that's why I haven't gotten rid of it yet. This one is one of the first books or magazines I ever bought from like for knitting. It's a Knit Picks collection, and it's called Dressed in Knits. This is before I realized that I actually knit really slow, and I kind of went, you know what, I'm never going to do that. But I wish that I could. And certain things like this one here, I just envisage for my sister, Tash. I think she would just look incredible in that. She's got perfect everything for it. But then, to be perfectly honest, I'm not going to knit a dress. I can barely get through a jumper for myself, let alone a dress for someone who's as tall as me. Like, no. So, would love to be able to give this to someone else who loves it more than me. I really like it, which is why I haven't gotten rid of it. But I just don't love it enough to keep it. Similarly, Knitting Around the World. It is a loved book. It goes through pretty much everything. Let me find contents. So it goes through the Islamic world, Western Europe, British Isles and Ireland, Scandinavia and Iceland, the Baltics, Eastern Europe and the Balkans, Asia, Australia and New Zealand, United States and Canada, and South and Central America. So it definitely is a proper around the world book. I don't think I have, but I may have highlighted a few places in it. Just quickly having a look. They've got like amazing, like, does it say what page? No, they've got like randomly every now and again, they've got little patterns in here that you can just knit, which I just find really interesting. But it doesn't say, doesn't have a picture of it. That's annoying. But yeah, sometimes I do read them with a highlighter, like I showed you for my other non-fiction books. I don't think I have in here, just showing you off the beautifulness of this. I don't think I have in here, so it's fairly unmarked. It's just been read, that's all. But again, it's so beautiful. It's just not one that I turn to often, so therefore there's no point for me to keep it. But I'd rather give it to someone who's going to love it than just give it away. So there's my non-fiction books. So we'll go relatively quick. Some of them are interesting, some of them aren't. This one here is Ignite the Sun. It's interesting, an interesting concept. Basically, the Queen of Darkness took over and has gotten rid of the sun, and the girl who is the heir of sun has to travel to the sun, or like to the sunlight, to be blessed by the sun. There's a big fight. Basically it. It's not my favourite. And I feel like I'm reading a book at the moment, or I'm reading the sequel to a book at the moment, that is this, but better. So I don't want to keep this one in my collection, because I'd rather the other one. You know? It's not bad, it's just not great. This one here is called Hive by A.J. Betts. That one is by Hannah Howard. This is by A.J. Betts. Hive. It's interesting. It's basically a girl and she keeps getting headaches, and then she starts finding out things, and it's very dystopian kind of life, and then she starts like finding out what's actually going on, and she kind of breaks free of the compound. It's interesting, but I don't feel like it goes enough into the after side of things. I feel like there needs to be a sequel or something, but then to be perfectly honest, the book wasn't that interesting that I wouldn't go and buy a sequel. So yeah, it's the first of a 2-book series, but I wouldn't buy the second book. So it's not, yeah. Maybe it's a really slow-paced read. That's what annoyed me. I don't like slow-paced reads. This one was one that I bought from the book store, like the return you get credit for bookstore, and so it was this one. This is when we were down south on our trip, and I was just watching a lot of YouTube and my eyes were getting tired, so I figured if I just read something it would be easier on my brain. Sometimes that works. This one here is about a lady called Teresa, and Tessa, and she's got like bad history with marriages. Excuse me. So this is about Tessa, and she's got bad history with marriages. She's had several husbands before. And then she's very like assertive as a human, and then she ends up not conning, but like convincing this man to marry her, and it's all about like how he kind of falls in love with her and discovers the real her. Very typical love story. It was nice to read. I just wouldn't reread it. Sorry, it can go. This one here I haven't even read. It's like Absence Makes the Heart Grow Fonder in 3 romantic retellings. There's Belle, as in Beauty and the Beast. There's, I don't know what that one is, Mina with the Queen of the Night. And a Snow White, Snow Queen kind of concept. Honestly, I don't really want to read them. I bought them when I thought I did, and now I don't. That's okay. You're allowed to change your mind. This one here is Sucker Punch, which is the Anita Blake book. The thing is, I've already got it right there. Hang on. There on screen. And so I don't need 2 copies. So this one has never been read. If anyone is an Anita Blake or Laurel K Hamilton fan, I'm happy to send you this because I don't need it. I don't need 2 copies of something I've already got. This one is Name of the Wind by Patrick Rothfuss. Honestly, I'll talk about the other book series as well that I see it as the same as. Haven't even started reading it. It looks interesting, and then I just keep reaching past it for other books, and I've reached past it for 2 years straight, so I have a feeling that's a sign that maybe I'm not going to read it. So it looks interesting. It's just not... Yeah. I don't know. Something about it means I'm not reaching out for it, so I'm not going to read it. These 2 I actually really enjoyed, but now that I've read them, I wouldn't reach for them again, which is why I'm happy to pass them on. So this is Girls of Paper and Fire and Girls of Storm and Shadow by Natasha Nunn, Njan. So I don't know if it's Nyan, like a N sound, or Ongyan. I don't know. It can change in pronunciation, so I don't want to say the wrong thing. So I like it because, number one, it's an author of color. It is set in the Chinese dynasty kind of concept. It's with like caste systems, which you'll see that I kind of like. Reading about like those class systems, and it is really interesting. And it's like that that forbidden, unrequited love, and there's a bit of like same-sex love going on in there as well, which I'm all for representation. So like there's really good things in this. It's just that I don't want to continue reading them. I've read them, I liked them, and now I'm done. So I wish that I'd gotten them from a library, because then I could give them back. And I think I need to go to a library more often now and read books before I buy them, because now I feel bad. This side, I've got Girl, Serpent, Thorn by Melissa Bashardust. With that last name, I'm guessing she's Iranian or Persian. So that is a BIPOC person I really wanting to increase. This one here is about a girl who is poisonous to touch. Literally everything she touched dies. And it's about how she conquers her problem. It's a bit meh. Like, I've read it. Now I've read it. I don't need to read it again. It's not bad. I just didn't love it. Queen's Assassin and Queen's Secret. Again, I actually really liked this first book. I thought this first book was really good. The plot twist you could see a mile away, but that's okay. The plot twist is built on in this one, but it annoys me because it just kind of doesn't really go anywhere, and the ending is like ho-hum. So again, I don't need to reread it. I've already read it and I already know what happens, and now I feel like the mystery's gone. Queen's Resistance and then the Queen's Rising. A very similar kind of thing to the Queen's Assassin and Secret. I actually got these ones confused for a long time because I thought they were the same. This one is kind of, it's about a girl, and she is like a particular ethnicity, or half this particular ethnicity, which reminds me of like the Celts or the Celtics, the people who would have like the blue body paint and be like really aggressive in war, and like Boudica and stuff, and then the other side are these it's similar to like maybe the French, And so she's like half of both, but she doesn't know who her father is because it's a big secret. And then it's all about her kind of discovering who she really is. The love story in it is cute, but also it's like a teacher-student romance, which, ew, just for so many reasons, ew. I understand why people who maybe do not work in education could see that as a really fun selling point, but I just don't. It's not my thing. Ew. And so maybe that's why I'm so nyeh. But nyeh. And then this one here, I'm actually really sad that I don't like, because everyone recommends it to me. But I just don't care. So Six of Crows, I've read. You can see the stripes in the book cover that I've read it. And it was a slog, man. Like, it was an effort to get through, an effort to read. I didn't enjoy it. I didn't love it. Everyone's like, wow, I really enjoyed it and this and that. No, I just didn't. And I've got two others. I've got Crooked Kingdom, which is the second, like the sequel. And I've got Shadow and Bone, which is a Grishaverse universe novel. I just don't care. I do not want to read them. I actively don't want to. So that's why they're going, because my level of care factor is 0. I'm also sorry if I'm knocking you. My little armchair is tapping the table. So I'm sorry if I'm knocking you. All right, I will put these ones away, and then I will get my favourite, and I will talk to you about those. Okay, these are the books that I love, that I happily collect. This is the first of series. So it's either the first of 2, 3, 4, 27. And I will go through and I'll tell you about most of them. So, starting with... These are going to fall down. I have to put them on the ground first. All right. So what I do, how I organize my books, I've got at the top where you can't see my to-read list. Then I've got my favorite authors. I've got Laurel K Hamilton, Tamora Pierce, Sarah J. Maas, Lynette Noni on the next one over. Then I do everything in alphabetical order by last name. So then I start with A, go all the way along down to Z. So let's start with my A's, and we'll do it in this way. I think that would make sense as long as I've put them in the right way. Okay, so first up, classics. You can't go wrong with classics. So I actually I've got a couple. I've got like the Penguin classics of Lady Susan and Emma by Jane Austen. I much prefer these covers. I really don't like the new covers. Really don't like them. However, I had to go and buy these ones. They were $8 each. It was like a sale. It was like 3 for $20 or something like that. And so I've got Persuasion, Sense and Sensibility, and my absolute favourite, Pride and Prejudice. Favorite that I can speak in English. And so I hate these covers. I just don't like them. They don't need to be made this way, but I've got them, so I'll live. So this is Jane Austen, which, to be perfectly honest, I believe every young female needs to have at least some Jane Austen. My two favourites, 3, are Sensibility, Pride and Prejudice, and Emma. I think they are classics, and I would just recommend them to everyone. It's my personal belief that every woman needs to have those and read them in her collection. My mum used to read them to me, and my mum was a lit major, so I'm very passionate about my good books. I also have Little Women by Louisa May Alcott. The latest movie that's just come out as well. It's just dreamy. It's so beautiful. It's so perfect. I love it. There's a shawl in there that Marmee wears that, oh my lord, I want to knit. I want everything about it. I just love it. And it's so unlike my normal style. So it's just classic and beautiful. So these are my classic books that I cannot go away from, and that I must have. The reason I had to buy these ones is I had a Jane Austen compendium, like a giant proper one. I've actually got a C.S. Lewis one in here as well. Or like a Narnia, I should say, Chronicles of Narnia Compendium. But I had all the Jane Austen novels, and I read it so often that it fell apart. So I had to resign myself to getting individual books. So yeah, that's my A's. For B's, I have Tracy Banghart. And this is actually the second book. This is Queen of Ruin. I was going to throw it out, but I convinced myself to keep it because I actually like it so much that if I can find the first book, I have a feeling I've lent it to someone. I want it back so I can read it. The first book was called Grace and Fury, and this one is called Queen of Ruin. Grace and Fury, Queen of Ruin. It's basically about these two sisters. Nomi has grown up as a handmaiden to her sister, Serena. I always think Selena. Serena. So Nomi is a handmaiden to Serena, and Nomi believes that not necessarily women empowerment, more like equality, because it's illegal for women to read. And so Nomi's brother teaches her how to read, and she can read. So on the night where Serena is basically chosen to be presented to the king or the prince as a potential new bride, and Nomi is her handmaiden, Nomi has a run-in with the prince and basically smart-mouths him, so the prince chooses her, which is a very young adult trope. And Serena gets caught with a book, which is actually Nomi's book, and it was actually a book given by the prince to Nomi, like for her to read. And Serena is sent off to the women's prison, which is like a desolate island. And it's all about how the two sisters are basically put into each other's lives. Serena is sent off for being a criminal when she can't even read, and Nomi is made into this princess that she never wanted to be. And their journey to find each other, and then they end up finding each other, and it's quite beautiful. The love stories are really cute in there. I really like it. And I love what it says about society and how women actually can be strong, but people put them down. So yeah, I quite enjoy that. So I'm trying to find the first book. It'll be around here somewhere, surely. I have a lot of mess. Then onto the C's. I've got, again, when we're going classics, I've got Susan Coolidge, What Katie Did and What Katie Did Next. This is the book I remember reading. I remember trying to find it on the bookshelf when I was growing up, looking for Katie on a swing, and then taking it into my room and reading it. And then What Katie Did Next, I didn't even know we had, and then Mum saw how much I loved this one and was like, we've got this one, and so she gave this one to me as well. So these are two of my absolute favorite classics. I just love them. Then I've got The Selection, which is very young adult fiction by Kiera Cass. Kiera Cass has got a couple of selection style novels. It's basically The Bachelor meets India's caste system in a dystopian society. It's the best way I can describe it. I really enjoyed it. She's written another book called The Siren. Couldn't stand it. So I feel like it's quite hit or miss, but what she hits really well. So I really enjoyed The Selection, the series. And then there's this one, which is that Ignite the Sun book, but better. So this is The Never Tilting World by Wren Chapico. Wren Chapico is a Filipina author, and she basically wrote it very much inspired by the Philippines. It's the concept that these two goddesses are twins, and they don't know they're twins, and they're raised separately, and then they have these trials that they have to face and conquer, and then basically one of them survives. And then the world continues. And somehow in the generation before, the two sisters screwed it up and the world broke. So one half is in eternal night and it's in ice and winter, and the other half is in eternal day and it's in desert and summer. And so it's very interesting kind of concept. I can see very much how, with the description of the Philippines that the author has included at like the author notes, I can see very much how she was inspired by this. And so the first book is all about the new generation of goddesses who don't know each other exist, basically, are brought to the middle of the earth for by an unknown feeling. And then they get there and then they meet, and then the second book is all about them trying to figure out how to essentially solve the world, because the world is broken and dying. And so they want to make the world turn again. And there's demons in the middle that they need to conquer and get rid of. So it is really interesting. I'm probably a few pages off the end of the second book. I'm definitely enjoying it. It's a really, really good read. So that's the reason I'm keeping this one, not Ignite the Sun, because I really enjoy this one. And I've got a knot in my little thingy, so unscheduled break while I try to de-knot. What have I done? Come on, little friend. Undo yourself, please. What have you done to yourself? I've probably pulled it tight somehow as well. I know this happens to people, but it's so annoying when it happens to me. I'm sure everyone feels that way. I got it. Okay. D. D is for Sarah Douglas, who is an exceptional writer in fantasy, although this is the only series I've ever really gotten into of hers. I've heard her other series are incredible. I've just never been able to get into them. So this is the Troy Game series. It is set with Greek mythology, and then it starts going into kind of the context of how London was built. It's basically these players throughout history that are reincarnated to solve the Troy Game, which is this game that they got trapped into and they devised. And yeah, it's like until the Troy Game is finished, their reincarnation continues and they cannot escape. Excuse me. Yeah, so it's really, I find it really interesting. It goes through, the first one is set in ancient Greece. The second one is in 1066 with the Battle of Hastings. The third one is in the London Reformation. And the fourth one is in World War II. So it goes through these different stories and experiences of these different characters, and it kind of relates it all back to this Troy Game. It's really well researched. I really enjoyed it. I've read it over and over and over for years. And when my sister came to stay the other day to house sit for my cat, she was like, okay, so where's your Troy Game? And I was like, it's right here. So she was reading it. I think she got to the second book, which is impressive because we were only gone for a few days and they're quite thick. For E, I have Amy Ewing. This book is called The Jewel. It is in the... What's the series? I don't know what the series is called. But it's The Jewel, The Golden Cage, and The Key, I believe. It does deal with surrogacy. So it's a bit of a heavy topic, especially for females. And essentially deals with slavery and modern day imprisonment. It's in a dystopian society. It is interesting. Like, I definitely would recommend it, but it's also quite full on. So if you're not ready for it, don't read it because it can be full on. The other thing that really annoys me, and this is something that just gets to me so much, is the author has released not only like these books, but then she's done like little novellas that are like, 1.5 and a 0.5 prequel and all this kind of stuff. I have no problem with that, but they're only found online in certain areas, and then you can only download them to certain carrier. It really annoys me. Like, put them out in a book that is clear with like tales of blah 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 blah, and it's like, the prequel, like 0.5, 1.5, 2.5, or read after, whatever. Would not mind. but it just annoys me that they're kind of like floating around and that they're not in a centralized place. So that is one thing that I don't like that this author's done. Although she did reply to me on Instagram a couple of years ago, and I was pretty excited by that. So that does kind of counteract the big issues. F is for Namina Fauna. This is the Gilded Ones. This author is from Sierra Leone. She is a proud African woman, and she's incredible. This is her debut young adult novel, and it got picked up by Netflix. So this will be coming to screens near you. I recommend it here first. The book, look, it's got some obvious plot holes, like pretty obvious plot holes, that for me brings it down to a 4 out of 5, but it is interesting enough that I'd bump it up to like a 4.5. It's basically about this group of people. So the society says that you are not allowed to be, that girls are not allowed to be cut, as in fall over, scrape their knee, anything like that, until they're 16, when they undergo a ritual cutting. And they basically check what color the blood is. If the blood is red, they're pure. And if they are gold, they are impure and a demon. And this girl, her blood is gold. And so basically talks about how she's a demon, and then she gets taken to be this, like, in this army. It's all really interesting and really, there's a lot going on. I really enjoyed it. Like I said, there's some pretty obvious plot holes. There's some, again, like pretty good representation. And one thing that I absolutely love about it is the exploration into African culture and into the setting of Africa. Like, you can really see that Namina Fauna, the author, has pulled and drawn from her cultural and experiential history. And it's really rich. It's a really rich book, and I definitely recommend it. I've passed it on to other people, and they've really enjoyed it as well. So it's definitely one that I really recommend. Okay, what's next? I then have... okay. L is for Mark Lawrence. This is the first book that I found of his, called Red Sister. It's Red Sister, Grey Sister, Holy Sister. And it's basically about magic, people being able to like manipulate the energy of the earth. It's really interesting. It's that whole, like, they're raised in a church, which is more of like a assassin guild, and all about how they, deal with everything. I really find it interesting. I basically read the first book, was a bit iffy about it, picked it up randomly, and was like, yeah, I'll give it a go, and then basically ran out to find the second and third book because I was so intrigued. So I definitely recommend this one. Girl in the Stars by Mark Lawrence is also interesting, but I think this is better. So Girl in the Stars is about the concept that when they're out in they live a life kind of like the Inuit people, or the like Native Americans of Alaska and Canada, and so they basically have to live this life on the snow, and then every year they get tested for variation of like if they're different, and the priest basically sends them under the ice, and that's, as you could imagine, being sent away from your community and under the ice in the freezing cold is like a death penalty. And then basically the main character gets sent under the ice, and it turns out there's a whole new world under there and a whole way of living. And yeah, it's like up to her to kind of find her way. So it is really interesting. There's a lot that goes into it. And it was a bit of world building that was similar to Red Sister, which I was like, is it the same world? Is it not? Is it just, he's on the same theme? So that made it a little bit confusing to me. But apart from that, it was pretty good. This is the Chronicles of Narnia Compendium that I spoke to you about. I just love them. I love Narnia. I highly recommend it. If you've never read the Chronicles of Narnia, read them. I have never read Lord of the Rings. My dad tried to read us The Hobbit when we were little kids and gave me nightmares, so I've never been able to read it. But that is definitely, it's a series that I've just loved since childhood and watched the movies regularly. I've got over here. Going into the M series, or M authors, I've got Stephanie Meyer, who wrote Twilight. Look, I was 15 when Twilight came out. I was obsessed. I can honestly say that. I have a little bit of shame about it. It was bad. This is The Host by Stephanie Meyer. Honestly, I really, really rate this book. I really rate it. I don't know why, but something about it I really enjoy. And I reach for it often. I've gotten rid of it twice, and every time I go and buy it again. So I've learned that actually this is a book that I like, and I'm going to keep it. It's a fairly common book. I don't think I need to recap it, but the movie and the book are actually really similar. It's one of the only ones where the movie and the book are really similar, and I think that's because of her experience writing Twilight, where she could kind of plan for scenes being the same in the plot in the book and the movie. This one is Michelle Moran. She is my favourite historical fiction writer. Favourite. I absolutely adore her. This one is about the heretic queen, which is Nefertiti's daughter, and how she ended up becoming a pharaoh's wife, like the first wife herself, but the struggle she had to go through to overcome Nefertiti's negative image. Again, it's all based on fact. It's really well researched. It's just so interesting. Like, I really enjoy it. And yeah, I really rate Michelle Moran. I think she's an incredible author. I have got Harry Potter, because you have to have Harry Potter in your collection. However, I've only got books 4 to 7. I don't have books 1 to 3 because I've read them so many times that they bore me now. Book 4 is hands down my absolute favourite. Absolute favourite. It is so funny. Again, if you've never read the books and you've only ever watched the movies, you will think that number 4 is like boring, that it's really dark and gloomy. No, it is so funny. It has just my favourite quotes, my favourite lines, my favourite moments, and it's like deep, dark despair, really sad, and then it's like Hagrid's hut, and it's just comedic genius. The juxtaposition between dark and light and serious and funny is chef's kiss, perfect. So definitely recommend the Harry Potter actual books. This one is called Hadassah, One Night with a King by Tenny. It is based on a Christian story called Esther. It's one of my favorite books in the Bible, or stories in the Bible. It's basically this recurring theme of for such a time as this, which is that you're placed where you're at for a reason for such a time as wherever God's put you. And this is literally about a queen called Esther, or Hadassah is her Jewish name. And she's a Jew. She keeps a secret. She ends up saving all the Jews. And yeah, I really love it. I read it probably every year. It's an easy read because this is a historical fictionized book. And it's my favorite from childhood. I used to sit there in church and ignore the person talking and just read the books. So, I really love it. It's like a very, a safe classic for me, I would say. This one here is The Book Thief by Marcus Zuzak, and I was lucky enough that when I was younger, my mum supported everything I did, ever. Oh my goodness, my mum was amazing. And we went, I was really, really passionate about writing. I still believe I'm going to be an author one day. I was really passionate about writing, and so my mum sent me to the Fremantle Children's Literature Centre, which is where I could meet with authors, established authors, and I could learn from them. And one author I met was Marcus Zuzak, and he signed a copy of the book for me. I bought a copy of the book, he signed it, then this copy, I don't know where that one is, it was like the normal basic cover, then this copy, he actually sent me, because it's a different copy, I think it's the American cover, or something, yeah, it's a different book cover. So I thought that was incredible and just so generous. So I've kept this one and I love it. And so whenever the year 12 sit there and sook to me, oh, we have to read The Book Thief. I'm like, guys, I have The Book Thief, personally signed. It's amazing. And then they kind of shut up because they don't know how to argue with that. It's great. Okay. This is going into my favorite authors, favorite ever authors. I will start, they're all going to fall if I keep them like that, but I don't know how else to put them. Maybe like that. That's better-ish. Okay, so Tamora Pierce is my favourite author, pretty much of all time. I was introduced to her books when I was in high school. I have a very strange childhood and lots of interesting stories about it. I spent a lot of time in the library reading and just kind of trying to figure myself out. And I had friends, don't get me wrong. It's not like I didn't have any friends. But I definitely loved to read and spent a lot of time in the library. I also had a 15-minute, which when you're a kid feels like forever, train ride, and then a 1.5 kilometer walk home every day. So walk to the train, walk home from the train. And I would read on the way home, on the walking. So maybe that's why I can knit and read and walk at the same time, because I just kind of got used to doing all of that. So yeah, I very much just loved reading. I was a voracious reader. I would read all the time. I read a limit of 10 books in the public library and 7 books at the school library. I don't know why it was 7. And I would read, 17? I would read that in about a week because I was just so desperate for reading. I just loved it. So Alana is one of the first characters I ever met and just truly fell in love with. A year 12 recommended her to me, and when I was like in year 9 or year 8, I remember thinking it was pretty cool because the year 12 noticed me. And so I gave it a go, and yeah, I loved it. So Alana is in the Song of the Lioness series. Alana starts off with a 11-year-old girl and her twin brother Tom, and their dad's pretty not interested. So Alana has magic, so they both got magic, and Alana hates magic. And Tom's going to be sent off to be a knight, and he hates fighting, whereas that's very much Alana's thing. And if he gets sent off to the monastery, instead of her becoming a priestess, which she doesn't want to do, he could become a monk and play with magic, and that's definitely what he wants to do. So at 11 years old, they concoct this great idea to swap and become each other. So, well, kind of. Tom, if he goes to the monastery, he could be a man, doesn't matter, but Alana decides to hide as a man while doing knight training. So it's 4 books, all about how she has to hide herself, has to keep it a secret, about her loves, about her experiences. I think it's really well written. The older I get, the more I appreciate it. The younger I was, I didn't really read into the nuances. Whereas now that I'm older, I'm like, oh, yes. There is... I don't think it's a content warning because it's stuff that most girls experience anyway, but there is mention of, like, her first period, and there's mention of her sleeping with someone and that kind of thing. And so a lot of people have issues with that being introduced to younger readers. I would recommend it to, say, someone in year 8 or 9, so like that 13, 12-ish age, because to be perfectly honest, if a girl is reading about it, she's either not new to it or not far off being new to it. Let's be honest. So, and I feel like boys need to know about this kind of stuff. So I don't have a problem with recommending it at all, but I know people have had issues with it in the past. So the first series is about Alana. The second series is about Dane. So this is called Wild Magic. This series is the Immortals. One thing that Tamora Pierce does really well is major characters, so like main characters in here, become minor characters in here. So the prince who becomes the king in here is the king in here. And it's all about the different perspectives. And so you get this idea of him from Alana and then a completely different view of him from Dane. I just love it. I absolutely adore the series. It's actually the reason I started collecting books. My mum saw that I was reading it so often and gave me one that she bought in an op shop. I still have that one in my collection. It's like the start of it. Excuse me. Continuing into this, so Alana had to be a knight, but she had to hide that she was a knight right until the end. And Kel, or the first test, so Kelladry, is the first girl to choose to go into night training since Alana. So they basically said, yes, girls can do it, but no one had since Alana until Kel. They're very different people. Kelladry's one is called Protector of the Small. And it's all about how she kind of faces adversity and conquers it. And it's very inspired. There's a lot of, they call it Yamani, but it's very Japanese inspired. It's beautiful. Really interesting cultural crossover. This is all in like the Middle Ages, so it's, you know, at the times where, like, you know, yeah, when there were knights, I think is the best way to put it. And so there's definitely that kind of flavor going on. But I really enjoyed the series quite immensely. There's magic throughout all of them as well. Dane's series, I didn't actually really tell you about that. Dane's one is that we don't know who her dad is for the first few books. It's a big secret. But she basically has magic that allows her to communicate with and turn into animals. So she's got wild magic, and yeah, it's all about how she kind of experiences life, I guess, and becomes like it's all that found family kind of thing. The one thing in Dane's book, the wild magic book, that people get upset about is that it is again, I don't like the role part of it, that there's like a professor-student love. So Dane and her professor kind of fall in love, which, yeah. I do understand it, and this is back in the time where like 15-year-olds would have been popping out kids and stuff like that. So I don't personally have an issue with the age. However, there is a significant age difference between Dane and her later husband, which a lot of people have big issues with, and which Tamora Pierce herself has actually come out and said, yeah, I probably should have fact-checked that a bit better. So, yeah, there's bits of it that could be worked on. Numair, actually, the book right sitting on the top there, it's called Tempests and Slaughter, and it's actually about Numair's story, so before he went and met Dane. So she's coming out with like new books all the time. Not all the time. She's coming out with new books. The Becca Cooper series, so there's Terrier, Mastiff, and Bloodhound. This is basically, so Alana, back to that first book, who she ends up marrying. I feel like I'm ruining it now because the Cooper is obvious, but basically she ends up marrying George Cooper, who is my favourite character anyway. And Becca Cooper is George's great whatever ancestor. So Becca has the sight, which is she allows her to talk to the ghosts that pigeons carry and whirlywinds, like the little street windy thingies, twisters, whatever you call them, not like tornadoes, but like the little ones. And so yeah, she ends up joining the police force and going and solving crimes. It's really interesting. One thing that Tamora Pierce does so well is this world building, and it's just incredible. I really enjoy it, like really enjoy it, but I actually haven't read the third book, and I think I only got to halfway through the second book. I don't know why, I just stopped and haven't really felt the need to go back and read them. I've actually read the endings of them, so I know the spoilers, but I'm keeping them for when I do want to read them because I know that I will. I've got these two, as you can see from the well-worn backs, they are literally my favourites. This is Alana and George's daughter, Alianne. So Ali wants to be a spy, like her dad, can't be a spy, and kind of runs away thinking it won't be bad, gets kidnapped. Turns out that her god, like the god that has favoured her, is actually the god of thieves and the god of mischief. So, like the trickster god. And he has a set of islands, the Isles. Does it say where they are? I'm trying to think. I can't remember. Anyway, so these islands, they used to be run, looked after, ruled by the indigenous people, and then white settlement came, and then they installed their own kings and queens, And then basically the trickster god is like, to be able to get my power back, I need to have my people back on the throne. Therefore, let's put them back on the throne. So he kind of chooses Ali as this secret way of getting the people back on the throne, like the rightful heirs. And it's a lot to do with, like, there's interesting things about spying and a little bit of magic and about how people lie. And it's really interesting. Like, it's so much fun to read. I really enjoy it. So, and I just love the characters. Like, they're just so strong and beautiful. So yeah, I definitely recommend these ones. Then, same author, different universe. We start with the Circle of Magic, which goes through 4 people. So you've got Sandry, who is the, she's got ambient magic to do with thread, stitching, fabric, all of that, wool, fibre. You have Briar, who is ambient magic with gardening and plants. Daja, who is ambient magic with metals. And Trissandra, or Triss, who is ambient magic with weather. And it goes through each of the people. I know it says, like, each book is Sandry's book, but you meet all 4 characters and the perspective shifts across all 4 characters. Not in a first perspective, which I hate, but in, like, a third person perspective, and it just shifts around. It's really interesting, really good. And yeah, so it kind of it takes you through these 4 characters. It really is around this whole idea of, like, found family, finding your family, finding your home, deciding who you really are, being who you really are, finding yourself, all of that. Like, it's really good. It also talks, like, there's a lot of representation in all of Tamora's books. So in this one here, 2 of the teachers are, one of them's bi, one of them's lesbian, so they're together. In the Kelladry one, personally, I don't actually read it this way just because I am not. But Kelladry is meant to be written asexual, so a lot of ace people read this and identify with her. I personally don't, but I think that's because I don't have the same perspective. Anyway, so it goes through all 4 of these. And then other people in there, like, there's other representations as well, but these are the main ones. Then it goes into the circle opens. So this is the Circle of Magic, then the circle opens. And this is where each of the 4 have kind of grown up. My map is falling. I've got a beautiful map on the wall. It's falling down. I need to frame it, I think. And that'll be better than crappy blue tack. So yeah, so each of the 4 have kind of become masters of their trade, and they've become accredited mages, and they go out into the world, and they end up finding people with new magic that they have to mentor and, like, bring them into the world. So it's kind of like the taught become the teachers, that kind of concept. What then happens is you have Briar goes off with his student and with his teacher, and there's a battle, and they get kind of caught in it, so he ends up getting PTSD. Then he comes back, and they end up having to travel to this other kind of kingdom where Sandry is the princess next in line to the throne. Something. She's related to the queen. And it's basically about how she's like a landowner there, like a aristocrat there. And basically all 4 of them are angry with each other, and they've had complications, and their friendship is basically broken down. And so this book is not only about protecting Sandry and kind of realizing her role as who she is, but also goes into that whole idea of, like, when friends fight, how damaging it is, and then how to regain these friendships and what happens, and when people can't trust each other and when you can't trust yourself. And again, just beautiful. I always cry in this book. It is wonderful. Love books that make me cry because it means I've really emotionally tapped into them. This one here is Melting Stones, which is about Evie, who is Briar's student, and Rosethorn, his teacher, and they go and I guess like save the next part of the world. So I just love it. I especially love the idea of how magic can be ambient. It can be within us through something unsuspecting. Mine is definitely not with plants because they're all dying, but maybe mine is with knitting. So I really love the idea that through something unsuspecting, people have a talent and people have something magical that they can create. Really enjoy that. Okay. Next, 2 authors, and then I'll tell you about Laurel K Hamilton, and then that's it. So, I read this one first. This is Whisper by Lynette Noni, who I previously mentioned with the Gilded Cage and Prison Healer. I saw this one first. It's about a girl, and she is experimented on in this underground secret facility, and she never speaks. And it kind of goes through who she is, why she's there, why she never speaks, and then she escapes. And it's all about her finding out who she really is. The next book, the sequel, is all about her regaining... Oh, I'm so sorry. All about her regaining her sense of self and regaining her, her understanding of who she is and her identity, and kind of like claiming her powers, I guess. This one here is Akane. So I read the Whisper and Weapon, and then I saw these ones, and I'd seen that Lynette Noni was like praised for these, and I was thinking, oh my goodness, like I really want to read them, but I don't know if they'll be any good. I'm a bit nervous about them. Like, what if they suck? I don't know. I just wasn't convinced. I bought the first one and I read it in a day, went right back and bought the rest of the series. It was amazing. And Lynette Noni, the way she writes, it's very young adult fiction, but it's so funny. And she just has these moments that just glimpses out, and it just makes me laugh. Like I'll just be reading and then just start giggling because it's such a funny quote or such a funny moment in the book. And it's just so well written that you've got this deep tension. Like I cried when certain characters experience certain things, but then I just laughed with other bits because it was just so light and funny. It's, again, like Harry Potter book 4. That good. Similarly, Throne of Glass. If you have not heard of or read these books, do it. I can't say enough good things about them. I also can't even tell you much about the series because from the first to the 4th book, it changes so much. And then the 5th, like the end book, not the 5th, the end book, just, so good. Sarah J. Maas is an incredible author. She drops these little clues everywhere throughout her writing. And then it could be pages later, it could be books later. She works it the way back in, and it just makes sense, and it's funny, and it's interesting. And I still remember where I was when I found out like the main plot twist of the main character. I you know how people are like, I remember where I was in 9/11. I remember where I was when I read that twist. Like, it's that good. So I kept seeing it and thought like the front cover, I was like, nah, it's not really my thing. Finally, I picked it up from Kmart for $12 and was like, you know what, whatever. If I read it, I read it. If I don't, I don't. Read it in a night, went back the next day, bought the entire series. Love it. She and Lynette Noni are really good friends and they talk all the time. Lynette Noni is in Brisbane, Queensland, and Sarah J. Maas is in America, but I love that they are friends. Sarah J. Maas wrote this one with the concept of what if Cinderella wasn't there for the ball? What if she was there to kill the king as an assassin? So you can see parts of it coming through, but I feel like it's a lot more subtle. This one here, A Court of Thorns and Roses, is a lot more smutty, a lot more sexual, like a lot more. It's a very much of a faster burn. And this is the concept of Beauty and the Beast. This one is a lot more obvious than this one. But again, I recommend it and I love it. I don't have the 5th book right now, but it's basically all about how the sister Nesta it's like a redemption arc for the character. Oh my goodness. It's the book that my angsty 15-year-old sad little depressive self needed to read. I just loved it. I felt like I let go of so much as well by reading that book. So highly recommend. Highly, highly, highly recommend. All right. Now is on to the last author, which is the person that I said, oh, hang on. Sarah J. Maas has another book called Crescent City. I have read this one. It took a while to get into the first little bit, only because her world building is very full on. Like at first there's a lot of world building and I didn't really like that. But once I got into it, I loved it. So I want to reread it again. The next book is coming out soon. And so I want to reread it but when the next book comes out. So I've got it. But I think Sarah J. Maas is just an incredible writer. So now I can go on to the final author, and this is the potentially sexual content. So if you don't want to hear about it, have a wonderful week. And if you are one of my school students who's decided to watch 1 hour 20 minutes of me talking about books, now you can go. Thank you. While you're watching, I don't understand. It will mess up your algorithm. I keep telling you this. And then you keep complaining to me that my videos are popping up. Because you're watching it, weirdo. Okay, so Laurel K Hamilton, she has written quite a lot. I have one of her older books. This is called The Night Seer. It's actually meant to be the first in a series, but she just never continued reading the series. I've actually never read it, so it's on my to-read list. She deals a lot with paranormal fantasy, like very much. So her first book is the Anita Blake series. This was released in 1993, which is when I was born, so I feel like I've got an affinity with it. And it starts off with this vampire hunter called Anita Blake, and she's religious and she's very against vampires. And the not like head honcho, but he becomes head honcho vampire. He basically is really infatuated by her, and she's like, no, I'm not going to give you time of day. Off you go, mate. Like, off you trot. So he's really keen on her and she's not keen on him. And then she ends up, I don't know, there's like a problem and she has to help him with it. And then she ends up meeting this guy through him who she thinks is a bit alright. And she thinks he's a totally normal person, but it turns out he's actually the leader of the werewolf clan. And so he's like the alpha werewolf dude. And she starts dating him, and then the vampire dude, Jean-Claude, is like, cool, I will kill you if you also don't date me. And she's like, okay, well, to not die, I'll date you then. And then she ends up falling in love with the vampire dude, and the werewolf dude annoys me, so I'm glad he's not really in the picture much. And then she basically realizes through her experiences, she's opened to a lot more stuff, and she realizes that she's polyamorous. The interesting bit with the book is, or with the series, is it kind of a little bit models on the author's life. So the author, Laurel K Hamilton, started writing this book when she was about 24. She was dealing with her mum's unfortunate death in a car accident, and that theme is really prominent, especially in the first few books. And she was Christian, or some sort of variant of Christian, married to a man and had a baby. She started researching a lot more of paranormal things for the Anita Blake series and started realizing that her lifestyle didn't fit the lifestyle that she wanted. So she then changed from being married to a Christian man, being a Christian herself, and she ended up separating and then divorcing her husband. And then she became a Wiccan, so into witchcraft. And then she met and fell in love with another man. His name, I think, is Jonathan, or that could be the ex-husband that I'm thinking of. Her and her new partner then found a girlfriend, and her literature name is Genevieve. And then Genevieve found a boyfriend, and his literature name is Spike. So they live as a foursome, as all four in a couple. Or, I don't know what you call the four couple. There's couple, throuple, quadruple, maybe? And so, as her life evolved, so did Anita Blake's life. So when she was writing this, she got a lot of backlash. So as she continued writing the series, there was a lot of backlash from people who were like, I started reading it for the vampire hunting and for the action and the blood and the gore, which there's a lot of. I wasn't here for the sexual content, which there's a lot of. So she basically turned around and went, you know what, that's fair. I want to write a new series. So this new series is the Merry Gentry series. And this is the concept of a fairy princess, and her aunt is the queen, and she's got a completely psychopathic cousin. And the aunt basically goes, first person to either get pregnant, her, or get someone pregnant, the cousin, wins and can become the ruler of fairy. And so it's straight out of the gate, super sexual, super into romance. And Laurel K Hamilton basically came out and said, I wrote that book as no surprises to where Anita Blake was going. Like if I had started Anita Blake with where she ended up, there would be less backlash and people would be less upset about it being that. So I'm just going to start writing this straight out the gate with that kind of content. So that's why I'm a bit nervous about the, not nervous, but that's why I can't really say much about the Xavier Havelock novel. It's her first with a male protagonist, so I don't know how that's going to go. But I don't know what kind of sexual content is going to be in there, so I will need to read it and then I can inform you. But I love good writing and I love good character progression. If I can understand and empathize with characters, even if we think differently, even if we make different choices, if I can still read them and enjoy them, that's what's going to make a good character for me. And I do find that with Anita Blake's books, with Laurel K Hamilton's books, that's what I enjoy. That's what I can follow. And so, yes, there is heavier stuff that goes in there, but I enjoy the writing. So, and look, you know, I enjoy the romance too. So yeah, those are my books. This is a long chat, and the sun is now right in my eyes, so I'm probably glowing a little bit. Oh, hello. There we go. I will let you go because it's been a long Sunday episode. But if you have any book recommendations, if you would like to take any of these books off my hands that I've talked about, that I'm happy to give. If you want to chat about books, comment on YouTube and message me on Instagram. I am at wattle_and.wool on Instagram if you would like to chat with me there. All right, have a wonderful week and I'll see you soon.